Welcome back to Your Tribe. This is part 3 of our discussion focused on what people want from their leaders. We started this discussion focused on core behaviors people are seeking and wanting from people in positions of authority. In part 2 of the series, The Secrets to Harnessing Confidence and Consistency, we discussed how to deal with the monkey chatter that can often shake us at our core. As we round out the topic of what people want, in this episode, we discuss how to let go of outdated and ineffective behaviors getting in the way of creating the life you envision. I think that's what's so interesting is when you have a moment of clarity and you realize that behavior and beliefs are learned. Oftentimes, our behavior is learned by whether it was whoever we grew up around. So whoever was, our parents or grandparents, or maybe a teacher or something that for some reason we decided that that's the type of behavior that we should model in order to be safe in our environment because something is not making us feel safe. Like, and with Amy's story, her parents abandoned her at a young age. So she potentially found something when she was a young child to model behavior because to her, that behavior would keep her safe and protected. But then once you realize, wait a minute, that behavior was learned for me to survive as a child. But as I grow up, I don't know if I need that behavior anymore. And that behavior may not actually be the most healthiest and most productive for me based upon who I am now as an adult and who I want to be in the future. And that connecting and really thinking about what programs am I running? I mean, for example, I don't know if I've shared this here, but there was a program or behavior that I set for myself when I first started working remote. As many of you guys may know who are watching this, I work for a family business. And at the time when I first started, I just could not, I moved from New York City to California for a marketing office out there. And then I moved back to Orlando, where the head office is, to train. And I just got to a point where I just knew personally, I was not going to be happy and fulfilled staying in Orlando. And so I had shared with my boss at the time, which was my dad, that, thank you so much for this opportunity. From a personal perspective, I really want to move back to New York City because I want this place to grow and stretch, and I'm not motivated or inspired here in Orlando. So he said, okay, as long as you have internet and you can get to an airport and you have a phone, you can work from anywhere. Now, he knew me as his child that I was going to overcome any obstacle. However, all of his partners and employees, given that one, my last name is Rawls, assumed, at least in my head, I took on that they were going to assume that I was just getting essentially special treatment, and I was just going to be flitting and flailing, live my best life in New York. So a structure I put on myself, knowing that it was up to me to succeed. It was up to me to exceed expectations, was that I would work no matter what from 8:30 to 5:30. That may mean sometimes I worked from 7:30 to later, but no matter what, I would work from 8:30 to 5:30. And if it was 4:55 and there was nothing left to do, I would sit there and just wait, because in my mind, I needed the structure to motivate myself, not even motivate myself, but just, I had so much to prove. Fast forward 16 years later, I'm still living with this really intense structure where it's actually inhibiting my ability to be creative and inhibiting my ability to be productive because my role has substantially changed. And so it's just an example of a behavior that is put into place early on because it was needed. It was needed to create structure. It was needed to create performance or whatever. But having the moment of clarity to look back and say, wait a minute, that behavior was learned. And I can let go of it now because it's not serving me now in this place. And I think as leaders, thinking about what behaviors have you mimicked or that you've brought onto yourself because you thought that behavior that you saw from an example motivated results. And is it? And do you like how that jacket feels? Like essentially, you put on someone else's jacket of their behavior. Does that jacket feel comfortable to you? Oftentimes, whenever I put on business clothes, I feel like I'm wearing my dad's suit. And so similarly, I had to figure out what my style is, my style of how do I want to show up in the role as a leader? What are my natural strengths? What can I lean into? Not what is a natural strength of some other leader out there that I thought was generating results where, quite frankly, they were trying to figure out how to take over the shit behind their back. So I think summing up or a little bit of what everyone has said is really trusting yourself. And by trusting yourself, you have to really get to know yourself, because otherwise you're just mimicking potentially bad behavior.
It's awesome. And, for everybody that's watching this, you can hear that, from Amy versus me, we have two different styles of skill to overcome these little obstacles. And if you're somebody standing in front of the room and you have lots of participants in front of you, and that little person shows up in your head, I want you to just stop, ground, and let go, and make it all about the people in front of you, because that's the only thing that matters. And whatever comes out was what was meant to come out and meant to be heard.
So I think so. We started this talking about trust in the mama bear and the cubs following her. And I think what we've talked a lot about here is really consistency is key. The challenges that keep us from being consistent, and it's upon us to really work through those things. I think one of the things I really coming away from this call with is I often think that I'm the only one that has the monkey chatter or the negative voice in my head, or as I've talked about, douchey going on in there. But I have a feeling for anybody who's listening to us and watching this, I have a feeling that more of you are probably going to agree that you've got that voice as well. And I encourage you to think about that. Name it, give it a voice, or don't give it a voice, name it, talk to it. I don't say necessarily validate it unless it's giving you good feedback, but I find that probably is not the case. And then comment with us and join in on this tribe in this conversation. Talk to us about what that voice does to you, how you navigate it, some of the tools that you use to get around it. And for those of you that have kids out there that might also be having issues in that area, like my daughter, who's vulnerable enough to share that with me, how are you helping your kids or your people that you manage? How are you helping them through that as well? Remember, lead by example.
Thank you for spending a few minutes with your tribe. Your tribe provides different perspectives from our unique view of the world as pioneers, trailblazers, go-getters, professionals, leaders, friends, and so much more. Our discussions span from leadership, business, relationships, and personal growth, and everything in between. Do you have a topic you want to discuss with your tribe? Submit a topic by emailing Kendall Rawls at kendall@rawlsgroup.com. We will love your feedback and contribution. Your Tribe is produced by the Rawls Group Business Succession Planners.